So, Scott, your ministry has unfolded in your lifetime during intense debate in the Church of Scotland around sexuality and inclusion. How has that journey taught you patience, courage, how to manage denominational disagreement, the line between personal and professional, all kinds of things?
Oh, help,
Pick a color.
Katie. Good. Well, I think the answer is not. It's not been easy. I mean, obviously, I grew up in a very evangelical church background, which gave me a lot, but also, on the other hand, took away a lot from me. And that was partly space to explore my sexuality. I was in a very happy marriage that became very unhappy and got to a point in my life where I was alone, divorced, and in my mid-30s, and I had been wrestling with my sexuality all my life, really, but managed to kind of put it away in the do not touch box. But I think the breakdown of my marriage and feeling that maybe if I was fortunate, I was kind of halfway through my life. I always remember listening to Radio 4, which I recommend to everyone across the world.
Radio 4.
Radio 4 is amazing. Anyway, it was Woman's Hour. I was making a cup of coffee. I've no idea really what they were talking about, except I was pouring my water from the kettle into my cup. And I heard this psychologist say, the things that people run from and run away from in their lives are really the things that run their lives. Ooh. And I just had this eureka moment. I thought, I have spent my entire life for perfectly understandable, good Christian reasons, running away from this truth about myself. And actually, it's been a disaster. And I thought I was running away from it, but it's actually shaped the whole of my life. And I just reached a point where I always felt called to ministry. I had very sure affirmation of God's love for me and my relationship with Jesus Christ. And I thought, you know what? This is not about Jesus. This is about other people's inability to live with the thing that makes me different. It could have been anything else that was different about me, but it just happened in this case to be my sexuality. And I thought, I've got to come to terms with it for myself, for my own sanity, and if I'm going to have a happy life going forward. And I suppose that change meant that I then, funnily enough, met my now husband at the General Assembly. And I know the irony. And so then we just started to have a life together, like any other happy couple would have a life together. And it's been a huge blessing in my life, I cannot tell you. But of course, there was a part of the church. I was called to a congregation in Aberdeen who knew all of this. They were perfectly happy, but there were other conservatives in the presbytery who were absolutely not, because they felt, and they were right to be fair, that if this was allowed to happen in one place, instead of a kind of don't ask, don't tell environment, all things would become possible and the ecclesiastical roof would fall in and, well, of course. So anyway, the case went to the General Assembly. I think it was the first time in over 150 years that an individual call of a congregation to a minister had been stopped. Went all the way to the General Assembly, and of course it became a major cause célèbre and all the rest. And I mean, it's not something I ever sought out in my life, but it's not something I suppose that change and being part of that change is not something I was prepared to run away from either. And the strange thing is that now in the Church of Scotland, we're 15 years at least beyond the real crucible of that debate. And now LGBT people can be married in church. Most congregations in the Church of Scotland are open to ministers in same-sex partnerships or marriages. It's really become not a thing.
Not a thing.
It's really become not a thing, which I love. And it's very interesting to contrast that with our Anglican friends and neighbours south of the border, where they are still, all these years later going through all of this. And I just think it's so, from our viewpoint, from my standpoint, I think it's so unnecessary because I guess everybody, there were many who said, oh, the ecclesiastical roof is going to fall in if you go this progressive direction. And of course, it was all fear-based, and the roof hasn't fallen in at all. In fact, anything but. And we live in a church where there's still diversity of opinion. And there is this, there's a minority who won't and doesn't, but they're very much a minority. And they're not a persecuted minority. They get on with being them, and that's also fine. But, I mean, it's just so not a thing anymore. And I just think that's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
And I hope it gives hope to people in denominations where that wrangle still rumbles on, because really, once you get over the wrangle, it's fine.